In this demonstration, I'm going to discuss some basic graphic editor actions. Select Configuration, Graphics, double click on the screen you want to open. As we see here, we have a couple of objects. The first thing to note is the button tools on the left. The first one is the arrow. The arrow is the default and it's used to select elements or to drag around elements. Also notice if I select this element, now I'm pressing the up arrow key, down, left, right. The element moved more than 1 pixel, it moved 4 pixels. And it did this because the grid is set to 4. You can set it to any value you desired, or 1 would be really no grid. There's also visibility. If you want the grid to be drawn above the elements, select above, the graphic elements are drawn and the grid is drawn on top of it. Or if you want it to be below, select below and the graphic elements are drawn after the grid. So the grid is drawn first and then the graphic elements are drawn. The next tool is the rectangle tool. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here. And you see there's a rectangle and there's a border. It's hard to distinguish here. There, that's better. We can see that there's a black border and a green filled in area. And if we select the pen, we can change the width of the border or the pen. The pen is the outside section. If we want to change the color of the pen, we can use the middle mouse button, and if you don't have a middle mouse button, you can use the left mouse button holding down the control key, holding down the alt key. Another thing to note is the foreground color, which is just left click on the color bar, we'll select the foreground color. The background color, you don't see it here because there's no pattern, it's a solid brush. If we change the brush to bars, we now see the background color, and the foreground color is the bars itself. So now if we right click on the color bar, we see the background color, and the foreground color is still the foreground color. So we have foreground, background, and pen, and it applies to almost all objects. Text, for example, only has a foreground and background. There's no pen because there's no brush. If you want to change one of the colors up in the color wheel, you can hold down the control key and click on the color and then change it, and that is now that color in the color wheel. And you can change any color that you want like that. The next element is the line. You can draw whatever lines you want. It currently has a pen width of 10. We can change the pen width to 1. And if we do have a pen width of 1, we can then apply a pen style to that pen. We had the same brush and forecolor, or almost foreground and background color to the pen, so it looked invisible there for a second. If you change the pen width to greater than 1, you lose the pen style. Also, when drawing a line, after it you can move it around as you desire. Back to rectangles for a second. If you're drawing a rectangle, you can use any of its sizes. You can also have a rectangle with a brush with a pen style. It's hard to see. It's easier to see. What I did there was zoom. I left click to increase the zoom and right click to decrease the zoom. You can also use the zoom in and out menu items or control page up, page down. Next is the circle. You draw circles. It has a foreground, background, and pen color just like rectangles. Next is text. Text, you draw a rectangle. You type in your text. See the brush is applied to the rectangle. You can select different fonts, their size. You can select if it's different text styles. You can select the alignment. Next is a round rectangle. As you see, the rectangle has rounded corners. You can adjust the amount of the rounding. Next is a line polygon, and you select it, the tool, you left click, do not hold the mouse down, and now I'm just moving the mouse, and to get a new point I just click on each point that I want. I can double click to end it, or I can press the escape key and that also ends it. I'm going to draw a polygon, press the escape key, and you see there's no line ending the polygon, meaning that in closing it there's no beginning and end connection. If I select objects, where did it? Polygon, close, a line is drawn between the beginning and the end, and the fill can then apply. If I select Objects, Polygon, Open, there is no end and it can't be filled. You can also edit a polygon by double-clicking on the, by selecting the polygon, selecting Edit, and now you see a box or selection point at each point in the polygon. And as you notice, the polygon looks like it's closed. But it's not. It's not filled. So you still have to, if you want filling for polygons, you have to select a close. This is also true if you're using %fill animation. It'll only fill polygons that are set as closed. Next is the free line polygon, and you use it by clicking on it, pressing and holding the mouse key, and then moving the mouse around, and then letting go of the mouse key, and now the polygon is complete. Again, it doesn't have a closed. If we select close, it closes the polygon. You can also edit this polygon by selecting it, selecting Edit. You see all the lines. Arcs. Arcs are arcs. You can edit the arc. It has a start and end angle. You can drag the start or end angle, or you can select it and use the arrow keys. To move the end angle, use the left and right arrow key. And to move the start angle, use the up and down arrow key. Arcs can also have set as a wedge or pi. This is a Bezier curve or Bezier line. Let's draw a different one. You see it takes 4 points for each segment. The last point is used as a first point for the next one. There's our Bezier line. We can edit it. These are gauges. We'll discuss in another demonstration. Some of them we've already talked about. For example, trending we've already discussed. This is a rotated circle or ellipse. So we see the dimensions of it. Now we can change the let's make this not filled so it's a little bit easier to see. As you see, there's a number of steps that it takes to draw it. We can change its rotation. If we draw a polygon again, you can also see that we can rotate the polygon. And you rotate it by clicking and moving the mouse. Many different things can be rotated. That's it for this demonstration.